So I know why you clicked on this video. You're wondering, should you upgrade to the RF 70-200 2.8 Z lens, or should you get the RF 70-200 2.8 lens? Or if you already have the RF 70-200 2.8, should you upgrade to the new Z model? Or if you still have Canon's EF models, the 70-200 2.8 Mark II or Mark III, should you consider upgrading now that there's more RF options available? With Canon coming out with more RF lenses since releasing the R line of cameras, you now have some great options available to choose from if you're still using the EF to RF adapter on your R body, and if you haven't switched to the RF lenses, now's a good time to consider getting them. I was there too. I had the EF adapter to mount my 16-35 EF lens to my EOS R, but when I got the 15-35 2.8 lens, it cleaned up my gear, made swapping lenses faster and easier, and I could finally take that little EF adapter out of my backpack and keep my gear streamlined. But now there's a new lens available with some different features, so the question is, should you upgrade, and what are the differences on this lens? With a new option to choose between white or black, it looks like it could pass for a kit lens in the black model, except for that little red ring on the front of the barrel. And black might be the color you need to not stand out as much if you're shooting photos in the city. The interesting thing about this 70-200 Z model is that it comes in the same lens body as the new 24-105 Z model as well. Probably the two biggest differences on this new Z model is the option to add a power zoom attachment, which allows you to zoom the lens automatically instead of having to turn that zoom ring to adjust your zoom. It's all done internally, which is the second most notable difference in the lens. The Z lens all works internally, whereas the older model is an external zoom. They're both weather resistant, but the new Z model functions completely internally, which makes the lens longer, of course. The overall length of the Z model is around 7.8 inches, while the older lens is only 5 3/4 inches long at 70mm. So it's compact, so if you're still wanting to keep your gear compact, the older version might still be the best option for you. Though when it is extended all the way, this older model does match the Z model in the length. The weight of each of these lenses is very similar as well, but the first RF 70-200 is still slightly lighter at 2.36 pounds without the tripod mount on it, which is how I normally use it. So I normally take this mount off and use this lens just like this, slip it in my camera bag like that. Both of these 70-200 lenses have that wide 2.8 aperture. They both mount to R series cameras and have the range of 70-200 millimeters. So what's the differences on these? The control ring and zoom rings are swapped around in the opposite order on each of these lenses. On the older version here, we have the control ring, next is the focus ring, and then we have the zoom ring out here. While on the Z model, these rings are reversed, with the zoom ring closest to the camera in the middle of the lens, and out from there we have the focus ring and then the control ring at the end of the lens, similar to the 15-35mm lens that I'm shooting on. The new 70-200 Z lens is a little bit longer than this, slightly heavier, about 40 grams or so. It has 11 aperture blades, an aperture range of 2.8 to f/22. It has an optional power zoom attachment that you can buy separately, and it has an 82mm filter size on the end. The older RF 70-200 is slightly shorter and lighter. It only has 9 aperture blades, an aperture range of f/22 to f/32, and it has a 77mm filter size. So how much is this new Z lens? This lens comes in at the time of this video right at $3,000, which makes this older lens right now at $2,500 straight from Canon. Also, that means you may be able to find this older version at a discount with new models coming out, or find it in the used market at a much lower cost. And if you were wondering if the minimum focus distance is any closer, it is, but only 0.7 of a foot or 0.84 inches, which is about this much closer. Also, the newer Z model allows you to use RF teleconverters or extenders, while the older 70-200 lens doesn't fit the extenders on the mount. And this is probably one of the biggest reasons to upgrade to the new Z model, if you want to be able to reach out further without getting a larger lens, like a 300 or 400 or 500 millimeter lens, with an extender, you can double the focal range of your 70 to 200 millimeter lens. But if you don't have a teleconverter or an extender, you'll have to use the tips I shared in this video to get more zoom with it. And this works with any lens that you have.